Okay, right, as promised, this is my first real YouTube video. Welcome to Stuff and Things. This is my practice. And the first thing I've learnt is that staying inside is doable. I'm an extrovert and I thought this was going to be a bit tricky, and I think it will get harder, but social media, Wi-Fi networks, getting out and about on the bike once a day, that makes it doable. If you're interested in your own personality, extroverted or introverted, you probably already know, but you could go to 16personalities.com and do a little quick quiz to find out what your personality type is. Eerily accurate. And I'd also like to just give a reminder, if you haven't read the story about Anne Frank, I know that's an extreme circumstance, but she is really, that story gives us an idea of how hard it can actually be to be in true isolation. Second thing I've learnt from this week is that learning from home is doable. I'd like to differentiate between young kids and high school age kids, that I don't think young kids need to do a lot of schoolwork at home. I think they've got a lot to learn from their parents and from just doing things. So Theo, my son, is going to be doing a small amount of traditional learning, mostly to occupy him rather than for any need to actually do some learning. Talia is looking after herself. Talia is 16 and she is doing what she thinks is necessary. Yeah, and I'd like to say that the kind of Google Meet, all the platforms that we've got for doing online schools are actually not too hard and are kind of cool, and I've already developed a sense of community within those just by using those programs. It's been kind of cool to catch up with all my students and all my colleagues as well. I've also learnt, so this is my third thing, so my first thing was staying inside is doable, my second thing is learning from home is doable, and my third thing is I've learnt what jobs really matter. And we've all heard that phrase now, essential jobs, and essential jobs are those that people who are still able to go out to work. So I would just like to give a great big thank you to all those essential jobs. So I've just listed them here on my piece of paper. Everyone involved in food production, pretty essential, we all need to eat. Food delivery, sale of food, all of the medical professionals, pretty essential. Carers, nurses, doctors, anaesthetists, everyone who's involved in the medical side. Drivers, people who drive people and goods around the place. Community workers, rubbish collectors, water treatment people, people who maintain our electrical lines, our sewers, all those kind of things. People who keep our Wi-Fi going, people who work in law and order, police keeping our communities safe while we're still in here. These people are important. Less important are celebrities and beautiful people and sports stars who get paid way too much for being born good at something. It's not quite so important right now. So there's part one of my little speech today. This is obviously going to be too long, so I'm going to need to cut it. Part two of my little YouTube video today is on science stuff. Science is obviously pretty important and pretty cool, and I kind of think we should all be thankful to all that science knowledge that we've got that's helping us right now. So, number one, I think I've got three things again. Number one, numbers. Very interesting read about Iceland and numbers coming out of Iceland. Iceland have tested as many people as possible for the coronavirus, unlike other countries who are just testing as needed, which is understandable too, because there's a limited number of tests and people to do the testing. Iceland have found something very interesting. 50% of positive tests are asymptomatic, which means they don't show any symptoms. And what I think that tells us is that many of us in our communities have probably already got or had this virus and not known it. So one of the byproducts of this isolation is by the time we finish it, many of us will have got rid of the virus, our body's natural immunity, and our body's natural process, our immune system response, and we might have built up an acquired immunity so that when we go back out and are able to associate with each other, there might be a strong getting towards a herd immunity. The other thing that numbers thing the Iceland testing tells me is that the percentage of infected patients that die is actually way less than we think. So at the moment we have tested X amount of people, all the people that have the symptoms, and we have got a percentage of those people that actually die. Actually, we could probably double that percentage of people that actually have the infection, which would half, correct me if my math's wrong there, which is actually quite a positive number. Okay, so number one was numbers. Number two, antibacterial soap. People, coronavirus is not a bacteria. Anything antibacterial does not work against a virus. Virus does not equal bacteria. Learn that science. And I'm going to post something about soap and how it works next time. That's a good bit of chemistry in there. So numbers was number one, Iceland test. Number two, antibacterial soap. Number three, evolution. There are currently 8 strains known about, 8 strains of the coronavirus, and scientists are actively tracking these. You can go to nextstrain.org, but you don't really want to because it's quite technical. I haven't even gone there myself, but that's where all of the strains are uploaded. The virus is mutating, no surprise there, but not too fast. And the new strains are not currently more lethal and are unlikely to get more lethal. This is because the symptoms are mild enough in general that the host, us, survives long enough to pass on the virus to other people. Unlike, for example, Ebola, where the symptoms are so serious that people die pretty quickly and therefore aren't alive long enough to pass on the Ebola virus. So that is pretty easily contained, even though it has a high death rate. So there's little evolutionary pressure on this little virus. Some facts about it. Its genome has been sequenced and there are 30,000 base pairs. Humans have 3 billion plus. And a base pair is obviously something like an A, T, G or C. And in the most divergent strain, that's the one most different from the original, only 11 of those 30,000 base pairs have been changed. So it is not a rapidly mutating virus. So that's it. So that's my 6 points today. 3 points on general stuff. Staying inside is doable. Learning from home is doable. And what jobs really matter. And my science bits. The numbers from Iceland are interesting. Antibacterial soap does not kill viruses, although soap does. And the evolution, there's little evolutionary pressure on this virus. And finally, to finish, I'd like to do some shout outs. My shout outs this week are to Mari and Tiana for making me do a YouTube channel. Not quite sure this is going to go anywhere, but here we go. And I'd like to make my second shout out of the day to my volleyball whānau, mostly at Tauranga Girls College, but all of my other colleagues and athletes who today, if we were not cooped up, would be down in Palmerston North playing at our national tournament and seeing each other and testing ourselves. And I'd just like to say it sucks not to be there, but I'm happy to be alive.